Alright, so what did you guys notice about this section? It's hard. There's a letter. What letter is it? Okay. I is an imaginary number. Okay, have you guys ever seen this? You ever seen this? Okay. So you already knew what this was. Okay. Well, anyways, that's what that phrase is coming from. That's where you get your I from. Alright, so basically, we're doing a lot of what we did in 4-5. Now you're just also adding in an I, which is really, honestly, super easy. You just pull out an I. So, starting with number 4, r squared is equal to negative 624. So, I want to solve for r. So, okay, I take the square root of both sides, so I have r is equal to the square root of negative 624. Seeing if anybody's going to catch what I did intentionally. That's where it's supposed to be, but what else am I missing? Okay, the negative has to stay inside. You take the square root of both sides, so that means everything on the right and everything on the left has a square root, so that's why the negative is inside. Okay, and I'm still going to have 2 answers. So right now when you're working the problem, you can leave the plus or minus together, but you still need to write your answers separately when you get to the end. So I need to factor out 624. What goes in there? Alright, so still working on the buddy system. Almost. Okay, so you're still pulling out the 4. Yep, so it's 4i. Okay, there's a negative here, so we pull out an I. So this is plus or minus 4i, and then the square root of 39, 13, and 3 are not buddies. So when you're working the problem, you can, but when you give me your final answer, you need to separate it. This is just so you don't forget, because this is obviously adding something else, and that's how people forget, because they don't do it as they're working the problem down. So then you just need to go through, and we're going to separate it. Yes, if there's a negative inside the radical, you always bring an I outside. It goes with the poster up there. Pi telling him to get real, the other one saying be rational. We've only done one problem. I think you'll get it in a minute. Alright, let's do another one. 6. S squared minus 22 is equal to negative 112. Give me what? Okay, so 3 has a buddy, 2 and 5 don't. So I pull out a 3. I heard somebody say pull out an I, or maybe a couple people. So S is equal to plus or minus 3I squared of 10. So then S is equal to 3I squared of 10, or S is equal to negative 3I squared of 10. 10. Gonna get a little harder. Not really, but like just a little bit. 3p squared plus 7 is equal to negative 9p squared plus 4. Okay, we're going to first of all move this 9 over. I want my variable on the left, numbers on the right. So that's going to give me 12p squared is equal to... Hey guys, also if you're not like eating candy or something, you got to have your masks on. Like the whole class has them off. Can you also push the door shut? It's gonna slam. Thanks. Alright, now what? Okay, yeah, that's fine. Okay, we're technically taking the square root of both sides. He just said to go ahead and separate it, which is fine. From the rules from yesterday. No, we're not done. Hold on. What is the question, first of all? I want to do the questions first. That's not right, so just wait a second. Okay, what did you do wrong? Okay, yeah, the square root of negative 1 is I. Remember? Up here. Square root of negative 1 is I. So, I have P is equal to plus or minus I over 2. Okay, so P is equal to I over 2, or P is equal to minus I over 2. Okay, so the square root of negative 1 is I. Square root of 4 is 2. So that's where we get that from. Yeah. So basically, once we solved for P, we took the square root of both sides. We just said, just for the sake of time, to go ahead and split it top and bottom. Okay, so then the square root of negative 1 is I. And then the square root of 4 is 2. And then we just split them up into the plus and minus. Yeah, like if it had been negative, like let's say this was a negative 2. Well, first of all, you could have reduced that, obviously, to begin with. But let's just say it's not, you couldn't reduce it. Then you would have I square root of 2. You always are pulling out a negative 1 if there's a negative inside. So that's what, yeah. So normally we just say, okay, we see a negative, pull out an I. Technically, you're pulling out a negative 1, which is I. Yes. Like 1/2 I? Yeah, that's fine. Yes. 1 over 2 times I, it's the same thing. Okay, they're just asking that. This is completely fine to leave it this way. They're just asking if you can also write it that way. So that's another way you can write it. Okay. Yeah, let me put... Well, we'll just go back and do 8, because the next type is a different type we're going to do. So 9 minus 4y squared is equal to 57. The door's locked. Can you get it? I never unlocked it earlier. You can just lay it on my desk. Thank you. Taylor. Coach Gray, like 8 of these the other day. Mounds. Anybody else Kit Kat? Anybody else Mounds? Reese's. Twizzlers. Lollipop. Whoppers. Peppermint Hershey Kisses. Anything. Those are at my house. Alright, what answer did we get here?
I got 2 i's for every reason. I got the plus or minus 2 i's for every reason. Yeah. The next one was kind of hard.
Alright, so now we're going to be adding and subtracting the complex numbers. It's still like terms. This is how this works. Everything is added and subtracted with like terms. No. 6 minus 3i plus 5 plus 4i. Okay, so these are 2 complex numbers being added together. Okay, the reason they're complex, they have a real part and an imaginary part. So, no, you're adding. Okay, so I add like terms. Well, what are like terms? Okay, no, well, yes. Negative 3i plus 4i is just 1I, so this is just plus I. So 11 plus I is the answer. Yes. 14, we're not there yet. Okay, yes, actually that is a good point. This is standard form. The I has to be the second term. I do take points off for that. If there's an I to start with, yes, there needs to be an I to finish it. You could have that. If it says write it in standard form, you could have 0I. That is a possibility. Technically there, you could get rid of the I, yes. Alright, 14. Negative 2 minus 6I minus 4 minus 6I. Negative 2 minus 4. Negative 6. Yep, negative 6I plus 6I, because you have a negative and a negative here. So then that's 0I. Okay, so the answer is just negative 6. Okay, so if it comes out to be 0I, you don't have to write that. Huh? No, it just happened to be that. The government's listening. Alright. No, you do not have to show that stuff. This stuff is completely optional. I'm just showing this right now to make sure everybody sees where things are coming from. You could literally go straight from here to here, or like in this one, straight from here to here. Okay, you don't have to show this middle step. I'm just, showing it right now just for everybody to make sure we're understanding where we're getting stuff from. Alright, I think this would be a good time for you guys to try one, see how we're doing. 8 plus 20I minus negative 8 plus 12I. No. I'm not going home though. My mom. Alright, what do we get? Anybody get anything different? Okay, you just got to watch your signs with these ones. Okay, this was 20I minus 12I, so that's why you get the 8I. And then the 8 and 8 was minus and negative, so it's plus. Okay. Do we need to do another one? Or are we ready to move on to multiplying and dividing? Alright, multiplying. Cool. Oh, this is 22. 22. 6I times 3 plus 2I. Alright, hold on. Before we do this, actually, I is that, what is I squared? Okay, it goes, it follows the pattern I, negative 1, negative I, 1. Okay, that's going to be important. If you didn't watch the video, this is something you really need to know. Because I may ask you what I to the 29th is. Follows the same pattern. So, anyways, we'll talk about how to do those later. But for now, how do I multiply this? I squared is, so 18I minus 12, am I done? Negative 12 plus 18I. Okay, it has to be in standard form, so the I term has to be second, real term has to be first. Oh yeah, we're going to do a couple of these. Okay, I'm going to make one up because I don't want to do another like hard one before we do a simple foiling one, so 2 minus 3I times 4 plus 2I. What? The marker doesn't always like to start writing. So somebody FOIL this for me. It doesn't matter what order as long as you have all the terms. Okay, so this is going to become positive. So 8 plus 6 minus 12I plus 4I. So then simplify this, what do I get? Hold on. What's the question? Because I squared is negative 1, so negative 1 times negative 6 is positive 6. Alright, so 8 plus 6. Negative 12I plus 4I. We'll talk about that in a minute. We'll talk about it in a minute. Alright. I'm going to a new page. Does anybody need this one still? Right here? I squared is negative 1. No, you need to show the I squared, and then you can change it. 24, 1 minus I cubed. Yeah, because that's not right. Nope. If this was a squared, what would this mean to do? Okay, so do the same thing, but with a 3, so I'm going to write 1 minus I, 1 minus I, 1 minus I. So now FOIL this side, FOIL these two. FOIL this side. One times 1 is 1. 1 times negative I. Negative I. Negative I times 1. Negative I. Negative I times negative I. Plus I squared. It's all still being multiplied by 1 minus I. So I'm going to simplify this stuff. This I squared is Negative 1, 1 minus 1, 0, so that goes away. So I'm just going to have negative 2I times 1 minus I. What does that give me? Negative 2 minus 2I. Which one? There's a bunch of ones. I don't know which one you're talking about. Up here? 1 minus 1. I squared's negative 1. 1 minus 1 goes away. So that's negative 2I. Where? Negative I minus I. Negative 2I. What do you mean? Yes. Yes. So that's why it went away and I just was left with negative 2I. Where? And then the other one would be plus 2I squared. And then I squared is negative 1, so that's negative 2 minus 2I. Alright, let's pause for a second and look at how we would figure out what something like I to the 29th is. So we know, again, I'm going to write these. I squared, I cubed, I to the 4th is I, negative 1, negative I, 1. Okay? Something you just need to memorize, okay? It makes sense, okay? I squared we know is negative 1. That's what we work with all the time. Okay, so I cubed is really I squared times I. I squared is negative 1 times I, negative I. I to the 4th is just I squared squared. So that's negative 1 squared, which is 1. What would it be? Okay, here's why. So, start with an easy one. Okay, I to the 8th is really what? Okay, I to the 4th times I to the 4th. Okay, which is just 1 times 1. So that's just 1. Okay? Now, I to the 29th, rather than having to sit here and count them all. Okay? 28 divided by 4, or well, 28 divided by what gives you like 4 or something? 7, okay? So, I know that gets me to 4. 29 would be 1 past that, take me back to I. So this would just be I. I mean, you can, but if I ask you what I to the 127th is, do you really want to count that? So you need to find something that is close to it, that it's multiplied by, that it can be like divided by. So yeah, find something that's close that you know what it would be divided by. Does 126 divide by 4? 3, 126, 42. Okay, so it goes by 3. So 126. We said that divides by 3. 127 is one more than that. So it'd be 1. Or you can subtract 1 back. then you would do something else that you know. So, like, I would still go with, like, 28 and then count up the last couple. You need, like, the biggest thing it can be divided by. Because, like, 28 can also be divided by 2, but I need the bigger one. So that's, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, yes, you can count that way. I thought you meant you were going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that would get really tiring if I asked you a really big one. But yes, if you know this pattern, you can find any I value. But that wouldn't be it. You have to divide it by one of these 4 or it's not going to work. Alright, let's do another problem like these up here. We'll stop after the multiplying one. Say, I'll give you a couple problems to start on. We'll do the dividing stuff tomorrow because we're not going to have time to get through all of it. Yeah, so we'll finish up tomorrow and then you'll have all of that time to work on it. We still have, like, when we're done, we're still going to have like 10 minutes. So I would say start on the problems and then finish whatever you don't finish tomorrow. And it'll all be one assignment, do it at the same time. Negative 2i to the 4th. Not times 4. Yeah, but you don't need to do that with this one. You don't need to FOIL because it's just one term. If there were 2 terms, you would need to FOIL it, but when you have something raised to a power that's just this, like one thing inside, okay, if there were 2 terms, you couldn't do this. But there's only one term, so you just raise negative 2 to the 4th and I to the 4th. So 2 to the 4th is 16. I to the 4th is, so 16 is the answer. Okay? There's no way that would happen if you FOILed. That still wouldn't give you that because you'd still have negative 2i times negative 2i. That would give you 4i squared times 2i, or negative 2i. You actually do it correctly, it would still give you the same answer. I'm just saving you a bunch of work. Alright, so far with what we can do, okay, you do not have to do this tonight if you don't finish it right now, but you do need to work on it right now. Okay, these are the ones you need to start on right now. Do not turn them in right now. They will all be turned in together as one assignment tomorrow.